If you're young today, you're going to grow up in a world that's totally different from what we have now. And if you're not learning about AI right now, you're at the risk of being left in the dust. And here's why. With OpenAI's recent release of GPT-4, it's safe to say that we're in a new era. Experts have called GPT-4 an early form of artificial general intelligence. And that kind of makes sense. It actually already matches our intelligence levels in a lot of different ways. It scores better than most humans do at things like the SATs, the bar exam, med school exams, and a lot of other tests that we've created for ourselves. And truthfully, you wouldn't know if it's not human. Some people call this the AI revolution. I just call it progress. And either way, we're going to see a new class, a new generation of people emerge who I call the AI natives, which is kind of an extension of the analogy of the digital native, which is what somebody my age is often called, right? Where basically we grew up with digital technologies like social media, mobile phones, the internet, and that's kind of our baseline. That's what we see as normal. When we want to learn something, we go first to those digital solutions, right? And now we're going to see the next iteration of that, which I call the AI native. And you have to ask yourself, why did the term digital native come about in the first place? It's because a lot of people that were not digital natives, so what you might say analog natives, struggled to keep up, especially in the labor market, right? They were a lot slower to adopt digital technologies as solutions. They were slower to integrate it into their businesses. And as a result, a lot of those analog natives were being kind of left in the dust, right? I mean, classic example, a lot of teachers, a lot of professors, they recently had to learn how to use Zoom and a lot of these technologies. And look, in recent years, digital natives have dominated the workforce. And the reasons are pretty straightforward. We are a lot quicker to adopt digital technologies in solutions, both in our personal lives and in our businesses and as workers, as employees, right? And that's made us a lot more competitive. And people who you might call analog natives, or let's say people who are just a little slower to adopting these new tools and new technologies, are generally outcompeted in the labor market. Well, guess what? We're next. Right? It doesn't stop at digital native. A generation that grows up with super intelligent or hyper intelligent AI systems, tools like ChatGPT are really just the beginning, but a class of humans that grow up with another organism that's basically as intelligent or more intelligent than humans on Earth, that's going to be a whole different type of person, right? And they're going to be a lot quicker to adopt these tools. They're going to be quicker to understand. They're going to work together. They're going to synergize with AI a lot more easily than people who are, let's say, a bit older and a bit more set in their ways. Perhaps AI won't take your job, but I can promise you that somebody using AI effectively will. And I wish I could tell you these are the skills that you have to learn to be relevant in this new world. But of course, it's not quite black and white like that. I think learning about AI is a good first step. So watching this video is definitely a good first step. There's a lot of other great resources online. Learning about how AI models, how machine learning actually works is definitely a great start. Use things like ChatGPT, DALL-E 2, Midjourney, a lot of these other generative AI tools. Start playing around with them, understand how they work. And try to use these tools in your work too. So try using ChatGPT and these other things in your workflow, right? They're gonna make you more productive. And it's gonna open your mind to other possibilities of how these might be able to be used in your day-to-day life. Immediate examples, of course, copywriting, social media, generating content posts for LinkedIn or whatever, these are obvious examples. And unfortunately, the question relating to skills is still very open. 5 or 10, 15 years down the line, it's very hard to predict what AI is going to be able to do better than humans, right? And I've actually struggled a lot with this personally. I'm trying to decide which skills do I really want to be good at. And I think this came from Malcolm Gladwell, but he talked a lot about this 10,000 hour rule, right? Where he basically argued to get really expert level at any skill, you have to put in 10,000 hours of focused practice, right? And if you actually do the math, 10,000 hours, that's many, many years of working on a skill to really become at that expert level, right? It's hard to imagine that 5, 10 years from now, a lot of the skills that I would have selected today are still gonna be relevant, right? Take video editing, for example. I'm now just kind of learning Premiere Pro, right, to edit these videos, but it's very imaginable that in 5 or 10 years, we're gonna have AI programs that can basically edit a video for you and do it right in the snap of a finger. And that puts a lot of stress on people who are entering the workforce now. Ultimately, it means that adaptability is the most important thing, right? Learning quickly, learning to change around these tools and use these tools in your day-to-day work, right? That's what really matters here. And I know my last video was also kind of pointing out some flaws with the education system, but this is another really big one. they're really lagging when it comes to AI adoption and teaching generative AI. So I know some people argue about, using generative AI in the classroom, that it's going to, make people worse writers, it's not going to let them really flourish as thinkers. But I actually see that argument as very similar to arguing that we shouldn't use calculators in school, right? Calculators let us automate the tasks, the low-level tasks, allowing us to focus on higher-level things, right? So, I don't know, high schoolers, for example, they can learn things like trigonometry, geometry, calculus, data science, statistics, instead of focusing on simple things like long division and arithmetic. And ChatGPT is very similar in a way that it can let us automate things like grammar, things like writing, right? And let us focus on structure and asking the right questions, the right prompts, and forming our own thinking. Pretty soon, using AI tools is going to be like using Google search, right? It's an inevitable skill that every student has to use, and schools have to start teaching that. The same way that they started teaching, safe online searching for kids, they're going to have to start teaching ethical, effective use of AI tools as well. Our society is going to undergo an enormous amount of change in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think the biggest change is really with the people. So the AI natives, right? This new class of people that are born and raised in coexistence with hyper-intelligent AI systems. So if you're a digital native, if you're, let's say, like under the age of 25, give or take, can you imagine a world without the internet? I mean, I can't. It's difficult to imagine how a lot of the things that I do in my life would be done without the internet. That's kind of what AI is going to be like, but 100 times stronger, right? Once we really latch on to AI tools and have these hyper-intelligent AI systems, a lot of people are going to realize that they can't live their lives without it. And think about the people that are growing up with these AI tools, right? That are 13, 14, 15, going through middle and high school, using ChatGPT, using all these tools. These people are going to be a lot more flexible around adopting AI tools in their workflow. They're going to be a lot quicker to integrate it into their daily lives, right? I mean, to kind of paint the analogy, my grandmother finds it very hard to believe that somebody like me, like a digital native, could, post stuff about their personal life on social media, right? For a digital native, of course, that's obvious. Like, of course, why wouldn't you? But that extends to the AI native. What we might find crazy to believe, like, oh, why would you tell this AI system all of this stuff about your life? But for an AI native, it's going to be kind of normal, right? And that is dangerous, because if we get stuck to these old mindsets, that really puts us at a huge risk of being outcompeted. AI natives will also have a pretty interesting new set of expectations for businesses. So nowadays, a digital native will expect that a restaurant has a Google Maps like link, right? That they have all the information there, they have a link to their menu there, they have ratings. In the same way, an AI native will very likely also expect businesses to have, for example, plugins to ChatGPT, so that when they type certain responses or certain questions, that automatically their services and their real-time information can be pulled into ChatGPT. And that process, again, ChatGPT is only the beginning, but it's a great way to paint the picture. It's only going to keep going, and it's only going to keep getting stronger and more embedded into our day-to-day lives. And it's also not hard to imagine that in 5 or 10 years, a lot of the content on the internet is also going to be AI generated. What you might call deepfakes nowadays will just be content, will be normal on the internet in a couple years. And human-made content might shift as a result. So something that was handcrafted, hand-designed by a digital designer or a human is going to be maybe similar to like a handmade watch is extremely valuable in the days of mass manufacturing, right? The world is always changing. That process has never stopped. New technology constantly comes in, big businesses, come and go, right? But that process is happening right now at an unprecedented rate. I mean, it's really that idea of exponential change, right? I mean, every technology, every development is really just skyrocketing up. To give you an example, ChatGPT hit 1 million users in a couple days. It took Facebook, which is often considered like pretty much the most popular and first social media network ever, it took them almost a year to hit that number. And it's funny, when I read books about predicting like artificial general intelligence and like these very sci-fi sounding topics of like artificial super intelligence, and I read about these and it's like, oh yeah, 2040, 2050, 2060, maybe, right? But I don't think it's gonna be like that. I think it's coming a lot quicker, and I think everybody's gonna have to change their lives a lot sooner and a lot more aggressively than we really think right now. And the only option that we really have in these days of just unprecedented change is continuous reinvention, constant learning. I mean, they talk a lot about lifelong learners, but how many people are really changing their careers after they're 20, 30 years in and molding their new work lives around new technology that comes in? It's difficult. It's a difficult process. As soon as we build something that starts building itself, that starts recursively self-improving, that's a whole nother ballgame. And I am excited for it. It's going to be an interesting time of human history. We've never explored that before. It's going to be a new era for all of us. It's going to be a lot of change that we all have to go through. But I am excited to be on that journey. I want to take you on that journey with me, so make sure to subscribe because I am going to be talking a little bit more about AI and writing about it. I'll leave some links in the description if you want to learn more. And see you next time.